Hey, it's Grandpa Jim. Welcome to Motivation Central Station. Today, you might hear some rain in the background. It is definitely raining here in Wisconsin. It's really cold right now, too. But you need a lot of rain to get Mayflowers. I look at the coronavirus situation. I've been saying this all along. It is truly a renaissance period. You may not feel it. This is an awesome time to work on the person you want to be. I have to be honest, I've been dreaming of having time off. Never did I think it would come in this form, but my prayers were answered. I'm very happy that I get this time, and I've been really looking at my future and trying to restructure things, and I'm hoping that you will too. So I want to talk about corona. I'm going to call them COVID kids. Let's talk about COVID kids. I think we're going to have the nicest society that is possible after this. If you go back to America, when America shined the most and people rated this world the happiest was in the 1950s. And in the 1950s, the average work week was 40 hours per week. Usually the male of the household went to work. There were women working, but the majority of households. So we had stay-at-home moms, and I'm not saying we should go back to stay-at-home moms, but what I am talking about is family connection. And people had a lot more time to recreate because they weren't working all the time. So when they were back at work, they had more positive attitudes because they didn't have to worry about seeing their kids and trying to connect. And so I think that that's one thing that'll come out of this with the COVID kids. And I really think we're going to be referring to this period and kids born in this time, such as the boomers, such as the millennials, will be referring to these children as the COVID kids. So a couple of things. Now, one is I'm looking at this as a great time period for you to connect with your children. And we were never taught this stuff, how to do that. It took me a long time to figure that out. Now that I have grandchildren and I'm connecting amazingly with every one of those kids and my kids still. Now, some of my older kids might beg to differ, right? But I feel I am. And so with the grandkids, these are a couple of improv games that you can play with your kids. I have worked with stand-up comedians that you see on HBO and Comedy Central. Not here to talk about that today, but I work with these students when they come to see me on these improv games. And so these are some games that you can teach to your children. So one is just using your imagination. I'll never forget my oldest granddaughter. She was probably 4 or 5 when one day I had an inspiration that I could, we could imagine we were on the moon. And she did not think that was possible. You could see her face light up like, oh my God, this is insane. I never thought we could be on the moon. And then we would, think of being on the beach, or we would go to all different places, and then I would say things to her like, what do you think we should have on the beach? What do you think we'll need on the moon? And that would spark her mind and her interests and really open up those pathways in her brain, connecting those synapses, and you could just see it in her face. And she really liked that. I think today, too often, we think we need this toy. No, to really connect with your children, we need to get the toy out of the way and get that eye-to-eye contact, stoop down and talk to their level. And kids are amazingly intelligent today, but I think with all this social media, all these games they play on, that face-to-face, that I love you in the eye type thing, really will help kids grow emotionally. They'll be more rounded children. We know that kids that are traumatized when they're young don't do so well later in life, but kids that have those fostering, loving relationships do. So I want to talk to you about a couple other improv games. One is just free association. So just ask your child. This would be more for kids that are probably around kindergarten, first grade, a little bit older, but if they know the alphabet, let's just free associate words that begin with the letter A, right? So apples, Alabama, Arkansas, Africa, amazing, alluring, whatever words they might come up with. First grader might not come up with alluring, but that's okay. So then you could take the game further out, and maybe you want to use two letters of the alphabet. So maybe you're using B and C. So becoming central. The words don't have to connect. It's about exploration. It's not about being right or wrong. There is no right or wrong. It just is. So we could use B and C. So we could say buying cash. We could say building canopies. So that's kind of the gist of that. But you could also take it out one more, or you could keep taking out many steps. But sometimes we like to do three-letter words like cat, caching, analyzing, too. Again, they don't have to work themselves in order. It's amazing when they do, but they don't have to. And so that's one thing you can do, and it keeps the kids sharp. It keeps me sharp, the other thing is improv game I like to call red ball. So we're going to take a red ball, maybe it's the size of a softball, and we're going to try to keep it the same size as we throw it around. And so eventually maybe you want to take that ball, you'd say, okay, the idea of this game is to keep this red ball around. Maybe you want to bounce it a little bit, throw it behind your back, throw it high into the air. Eventually maybe you want to change the size of the ball, make it a little larger, maybe the size of a basketball. A little further down the road, maybe the size of a beach ball, make it really big. And then maybe the size of a hot air balloon, right? You could have a lot of fun with it. A lot of times I'll add in throwing things that aren't normally thrown, like an anvil, and then you have to act out the heaviness of that anvil. So that's something that should keep you and your kids entertained. And then I just think with social distancing, I could see it already. I think this is going to change America and make us a little more kind. I noticed yesterday, I get my messages in the smallest, most trivial places, but I was buying some tacos off a taco truck, and I just noticed how kind everybody was. I walked up, and they're like, oh, I already ordered. And another person, there are probably 12 people, I already ordered. Oh, thank you very much. And I walked up, and we all did our social distancing. We had great conversations. Everybody was really patient, polite. I think kids will see these examples and they will want to emulate them. Prior to this, we were all rushing around like mad people. I got to get here. I got to get the kids here. I got to go there. And it's great, I think, to slow down. That financial piece too. There's some things we can control and there's just some things we can't. And, this is one of those time periods where you might want to look about, what can I do to improve myself so the next time this comes, I have 3 small businesses and one's not functioning, the other 2 are. So, I'm very fortunate that I have some what I call recession-proof businesses. So I like that aspect. So maybe you can think about things like that. So I think that's kind of what I want to cover today. Again, I think social distancing will be great for kids. This is a great time. Gandhi said the fall of a nation begins in a home. So the opposite of that must be true, that the start of a nation to flourish starts in the home as well. So this is a great time to work on building better children, and I think it's going to be a wonderful world as we move forward. If you like these kind of talks, I do a podcast. It's on various platforms called Motivation Central Station. Empowerment with Grandpa Jim. There is a grandma in my life too, that my wife, that helps with the kids. But if you like what you hear here, if you could please subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to build this channel, and if you do go over to any podcast, if you could subscribe to the subscription there. So hey, wonderful hanging out with you people today. Some of you that have watched my talks in the past, are you keeping up with those big major goals? That we start, us human, our nature is to do them for a little bit and fall apart. I want to remind you to stay on top of your goals. And, in the meantime, the best medicine besides laughter is helping another person. So laugh today, find a reason to laugh. Find a reason to make somebody else laugh, and go out there and try to help somebody. Maybe that elderly woman that you have never talked to in your life might need help taking her trash out today, right? It's doesn't always have to be pretty. It just needs to be kind. So thanks for hanging out with Grandpa Jim today here on Motivation Central Station, and love you all, and hope you all do well.